Hello everyone and welcome to Beginner's Code. Today we are going to be using the Seaborn library to load datasets and create visualizations of our data that we can analyze and interpret. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do is just import some libraries that we need. And originally we will just be using Seaborn, so import Seaborn as SNS. And then now we can use the matplotlib inline just to make sure that whilst we're on Jupyter Notebooks, everything is printing out or everything is being shown as it should be. So matplotlib inline. And now if we just run these, just make sure we don't get any errors. And here we don't, which is good news. So now we are going to import some data. And there are a few different ways to do it. There's one using the Seaborn load dataset, or you can use the pandas read CSV. And if you're doing that, then you can head over to Kaggle. And if you click on data, there are lots of different data sets that you can just download, and it just comes built in with lots of different data. So if I just open this, then we have all of this data that's built in that comes with that you can start practicing with. Otherwise, if you are using just the Seaborn library, then you don't need to actually use a CSV file from Kaggle. What we can do instead is use the load dataset, and within GitHub on this link here, which I will leave in the description below, there are lots of different CSV files which we can click on, and it holds lots of different data that we can then compare and transform into our own data visualization or graphs. So what we're going to do first is we will use the tips dataset. So we'll just create a variable called tips, and we will assign it to sns.load_dataset, and here we will just pass in the value of tips. And this will correlate to this tips.csv file here. So if we open it, we have total bill, tip, sex, smoker, day, time, and size. So it's total bill, $16.99. They paid £1 and 1p tip. It was a female who didn't smoke, and it was 2 people on a Sunday at dinner time. So there's lots of different types of information that we can find here. There's lots of different avenues that we can use to actually highlight specific things, such as either total bill and sex or tip and sex. So what we could do there is find out whether or not someone is a female actually spends more money on their total bill than someone that's a male, or someone that's a female spends more money on a tip than someone that's a male, or vice versa. So what we're going to do is we will just focus on the day, the total bill, and potentially have a little look at sex as well. So now that we have our data set loaded in, we can then call .head on this variable. And if we run this, we now see the first 5 elements of the data set. So what we have is $16.99, and that is exactly the same as the first row that we have here. So what we can now start to do is actually start putting it into different categories. And well, the first kind of graph that we're actually going to use is the Violin Plot. And the Violin Plot allows for lots of different pieces of data to be looked at in terms of how many occurrences there are at a certain time. So what we'll do is if I just call sns.violinplot, and then what we'll do is x is equal to, and we'll pass in the value of day, and then the y is equal to the value of total bill. So what we're going to be doing is we are going to be creating a violin plot that will check the time against the day against the total bill to see whether or not a Thursday may cause people to spend more money than a Sunday. So if I now run this, we get an error and it could not interpret day. So where have I gone wrong here? X is equal to day, Y is equal to total bill. Right, data is equal to tips. So I forgot to pass in the data here. So what we actually need to do is make sure that we have our data passed in as a parameter so that it knows what to look at. So we are passing in the data as the tips variable, which will hold the data set of tips. So now if I run this, we get back 4 different violins, and you'll notice that the Saturday has the largest spread. So the highest is almost 60 and the lowest is almost, well, according to this is negative, which doesn't quite seem correct, but and then we have the Thursday, which has the most occurrences of between 10 and 20 pounds, so 15 roughly, and that happens the most around Thursday. And we see up here Sunday we have a little bit more room for 30 and 40, which kind of suggests that if people on Sunday are going out, they're more likely to be spending more money, potentially because the party size might be bigger, but also potentially because it's a Sunday, people aren't working, it's the day of rest, there's lots of different reasons. So what we can now do to make it even more clearer is we can pass in a new parameter, and this parameter will be the hue. And what we're going to actually change it to is we're going to change it to a categorical I can't even remember the name for it, but what we're going to do is we'll change the hue to match the male or female. So if it's male, then we will have a certain colour, and if it's female, we'll have a different colour. So if I pass in sex here, we now get 4 different violin plots for Thursday, Friday, Saturday and Sunday. And you can see it's much easier to differentiate between the men and the women. So we can see down here Friday, the men seem to spend a lot longer in the restaurant or the bar or wherever this data set was taken from. And the females seem to spend a lot longer on the Sunday as well. And you can also tell that the females are actually spending more money on a Sunday than they are on, say, a Thursday. We do have some outliers, which may be why some of these are so stretched, including the Saturday male one. It's very stretched, which could suggest that we have a couple of outliers that don't fit into around here, and that's why it's causing it to stretch. So we now have 4 different violin plots, 2 for each day. So, well, we actually have 8. So what we can now do is, because they're split, so we have the men's and the women's split apart, we can actually use a new parameter of split and pass in true. And now if we run this, we get back on the same violin, the male compared to the female. Now you'll see down here on Friday, the male compared to the female spend is completely different to the other days. Now that may be because there's more people that are going to this restaurant on a Friday who are actually spending more money in terms of men. It may be that they're happier because they know that it's coming to the end of the working week, so they're more willing to spend more money. It could be certain things like that. There's lots of different outliers as to reasons why one specific sex may be spending more money than another specific sex. But this is the whole part of data analysis and data visualization, and it is very interesting to see how we can use violin plots to compare 3 different types of data: the day, the total bill, and the sex of the customer, to work out what the kind of customer's knowledge or spending habits are like. Thank you for watching. Hopefully this has helped your understanding on how we can use Seaborn to create visually appealing graphs to make our data clearer. If you liked what we've been through and you want to learn more, please drop a like and subscribe to my channel to keep up to date. In the next video, we will be looking at object-oriented programming and inheritance. Thank you, and I'll see you next time.